Okay, we're going to have a look at some different metals. Now, some of you will be familiar with different metals and their uses and some of their properties. You might have come across some of them in science. You certainly will have named some of them in science when you look at the periodic table. So what are metals? Well, metals are strong, dense materials, often used in their elemental form. That is, the same they are on the periodic table. And sometimes they're combined with other elements or even other metals to give different properties needed for different uses in engineering. Now, in engineering, they're split into two main groups, and each of those groups is split into two smaller groups. All of these different groups are described by the following three definitions. This is how we're going to describe what sort of metal we can see in front of us. Once we've done that, we'll have a look at some of the uses of these different metals, and we're going to match up the type of metal to its use in real life with some real products. So, first of all, those first descriptions. So, metals are split into three main groups. We have ferrous metals, which are metals containing iron. They might contain other things, but they all contain iron. Non-ferrous don't contain iron. That's a nice easy description. And finally, alloys, which are a mixture of metals. They can be ferrous or non-ferrous. They'll be ferrous if they contain iron, and non-ferrous alloys if they don't. So, what sort of metal are we dealing with here? So, mild steel. What does it contain? So let's have a look. It contains iron, which is a nice easy one to start with, and it also contains carbon. So it's not a mixture of metals, carbon isn't a metal, but it does contain iron, so it's ferrous, nice and easy. Next one, stainless steel. You'll recognise this from your cutlery or your kitchen sink. What does it contain? Again, it contains iron, it also contains carbon, but it also contains chromium, which if you look at your periodic table is another metal. Two metals, one of them is iron, so what we're dealing with here is ferrous and an alloy. Third metal, copper. It contains copper. That's it. It's an element. It's non-ferrous. No iron there. Right, fourth metal, aluminium. Usually drinks cans are made of aluminium. It contains aluminium. It's a non-ferrous metal. Fifthly, brass contains copper, okay, and zinc. Both of those are metals. Neither are iron, so it's non-ferrous and an alloy. Finally, lead. What does that contain? Well, it contains lead, again, on the periodic table. It's a non-ferrous metal. So the next task is a bit trickier. We have a page here of ferrous metals. What we're going to do is match the metal, which we've got listed down the left-hand side, to the product on the right-hand side. Now, all of these metals on this page contain iron, but they also contain some other things. Some are alloys and some are not. So let's start at the beginning. Pure iron, soft and malleable, often called wrought iron. You might have heard of wrought iron gates. So, number 2. High tensile steel. Tensile means strong when you pull it. So these steel cables fit that description. Stainless steel, we've already talked about. We've got these scissors at the top, these cutlery here, and also the kitchen sink, all made of stainless steel, very corrosion resistant. Now next, number 10 is this steel beam. It's what buildings are made out of. It's very, very strong, it's very, very cheap, but it contains mild steel. What else is mild steel here? Nails. If you've ever hit a nail and it bend, you know that it's a bendy metal, but it's also very strong, hence mild steel. The next steel we're looking at is a medium carbon steel. This has slightly more carbon than a mild steel. It's used for things... Oh, we put number 2 in there. That's not actually correct. Never mind. High-speed steel. You'll come across this in the workshop. Drill bits are made of high-speed steel, and lathe tools are made of high-speed steel, 7 and 14. Now these are used to cut other pieces of metal, so they're very, very hard. High carbon steel. You see number 9, brake discs. Spring steel is the next one. Already put in at number 5. Strangely, it's used to make springs. Finally, cast iron. It's very cheap. It's very easy to shape. So things like the vices here in the workshop What else is made from those? Car engine blocks are often made from cast iron, where you just need a very strong shape. And finally on there we've got the drain pipe down at the bottom. Now that is also made of cast iron. It's a ornate shape, but it needs to be made cheaply. So we'll put number 13 in there at the end as well. So identifying different metals, you can often work out what sort of metal it is by how it's being used. Is it a spring? Well, it's probably spring steel. What I'd like you to do next is have a go at this page of non-ferrous metals. Match the application to the picture of a product. Okay, once you've done that, have a go at the woods and the plastics.